right, so what exactly is a bean? So a bean is an object that the Spring container instantiates, assembles, and manages the entire life cycle for us. You saw that in here we have beans inside of the application context, and if we need them, we just have to use dependency injection and job done. If I go back to IntelliJ, and in here I'm going to leave this so you have access to it. So we need to pass the application context here, and then I'm going to say context ctx, and we're going to basically take this from here. This should be ctx, and basically we have to start the application at some point, right? So let's start the application right here, and basically we pass the ctx, and if I uncomment this should work. Cool. Basically what I wanted to show you is that you saw that we have customer service, these annotations right here, at service, at component, at repository, at REST controller, so on and so forth. There are times where we want to build our own beans. We want to create our own beans instead of using this annotation. So let's basically go to main in here, and let's say that we have this foo object that eventually we want it to be managed by the application context so that we can then auto wire whatever we need it. So how do we do that? Let's just first have a record. So I'm going to say record, and this will be foo. This will have a string and the name. And in here, how do we basically create an object from this? Right, so we would say public, and then foo, and then get, and then maybe foo. And now, so I can just say return, and then new, and then foo, right? And then pass the name. So the name will be bar. Cool. So at this point, this foo object is outside of the application context, and it's not managed for us. Now, if we want this to be managed for us, we have to use this annotation. Now, if we want it to be managed by Spring, we basically say at and then bean. So now this becomes a bean, which means that instead of being managed by us, it's put into the application context. Now foo is managed by Spring. So let's try and use it. So let's say that we want to have a class. So under, so not customer, under Amigos code, let's have a class called foo and then service. And within foo service, we want to have, so here, the access to the name called the bar, right? So here I'm going to say public, and then foo, and then main dot, and then foo. That's because foo lives within main. And then I'm going to say foo. Then I'm going to add this to constructor. Oops, not public, sorry, my bad. Private final. There we go. This is much better. Now add to constructor, and let's have a method. So here I'm going to say get, and then foo name. So we're not going to use this. So this should be string. We're not going to use this, but I'm just want to show you what happens. So here I'm going to say return foo dot and then name. Now, in order for this here to work, we have to annotate this class with add and then service. And check this out. So we have foo private final main.foo and then foo, and then here we basically get foo from the application context, and then we assign foo to this foo right here, and then we can use it within this method. So if I put a breakpoint in here, and I'm going to basically, if the application is running, stop it and then debug. So debug, and you see that the debugger stops within line 11. And check this out. So we have foo. So this private final foo is currently null, but the one within the constructor is not. So you can see that this is actually foo that is being instantiated by Spring, and it has name equals to bar. Now, let me just have another line here. So south, and I'm going to have a second break, and I'm going to reload. So I just want to step over so you can see. So now it's null as before. If I step over, check this out. So now it's been assigned to the instance that was from the application context, which means that whenever we say foo.name, it works. Don't believe me? So if I just use evaluate expression, foo.name, so invoke this, run it, and you can see that we have bar in here. Now what I want to do is I want to stop this for now, go back to main, and remove this annotation. So you'll see that this doesn't work, right? So have a look. Parameter 0 of foo service required a bean of type main.foo that could not be found. So basically we are trying to auto wire in here, inject a bean that does not exist. Hopefully this makes sense. And you can actually go and run, let's just print all the beans. So let me again actually go back to main, and then here uncomment this, and let's just run it and search for foo, and you can see that we have get foo. So this is the name of it. Now if we want to change the name, instead of say get foo, we can basically add parameters, and then inside we can say foo and reload and say foo, and now have a look. The name is not get foo, but instead foo. And this is pretty much the gist of creating beans like this. Now the benefit of creating beans like this obviously is that you can do a bunch of logic prior to create the new instance that Spring will then manage for you. So right here, so just before, you can have a bunch of logic, and usually you'll see stuff for creating the connection details for a database or configuration classes, and you'll see lots of beans created this way. If you have any questions on this, please do let me know. Otherwise, catch me on the next one.